Great. Well, you're doing a great job. Corporal Brosnan, being the range master, you have a weapon there that maybe you could talk about, the AR-15.
Right.
Why the department is utilizing that weapon, and why did I believe when I first came to Warren over 2 years ago, there was a recommendation made that each officer would be able to have a weapon such as the AR-15 for a number of reasons,
right.
And that was approved. And I know that you, as a member of the SRT, the Special Response Team, you certainly were familiar with the weapon before the entire department received it. So let's talk about, why we have that weapon.
Right.
Why we're trying to. I know why we're doing it, but for
right.
our general public.
Well, there's actually a number of things that we can talk about in regards to it. I think that this particular weapon started being used across the nation.
Why don't you hold it up a little bit for the camera there?
I think that the particular weapon, the advent of it was unfortunately after the incident in Los Angeles with the 2 bank robbers. The officers in LA were using 9mm pistols.
Right.
They were using 12 gauge, the 870 Remington pump shotguns. And the bad guys at that time had the automatic weapons. In addition to that, they had body armor.
Body armor.
And because of the mass and momentum behind a pistol round or a shotgun round, if you're using a slug, they will not penetrate body armor. So had they had a rifle such as this, that incident would have been over much quicker.
Well, let's just talk about that incident.
Okay.
That happened back in, I believe, 95, 96, in that area.
That's about right, yes, sir.
Yeah, and it's my understanding, if I recall correctly, there's like 1,800 shots fired.
Yeah, there was an outrageous number of rounds that were fired. The 2 bad guys had AK-47s that were fully automatic, and those rounds will punch through cars and the officers. I believe that there were 6 injured, but by the grace of God and luck, no civilians or officers were killed. Mm-hmm. And in law enforcement, typically we're a little slow to respond to equipment and things along those lines. For instance, Columbine, there really was no active shooter programs in place until after that, and a nation was outraged that the officers were standing by as if it were a hostage situation, when in fact these 2 horrible human beings were actually actively hunting people. And it was actually because of circumstances like that that I decided to take this position. I'd passed on it originally, but having the advantage of being SRT for so long, I really thought that patrol officers needed to be exposed to this type of training, because most active shooters start and finish 5 to 10 minutes
exactly
into the shooting.
So you don't have time to always get the SRT.
No, SRT, even if we were all at work at that particular time, our response is very quick. But truly, road patrolmen are going to be the ones there within the first couple of minutes.
Well, it's like a bank robbery. If you have a shooting at a bank robbery, the first responders, they have to be equipped with the proper, equipment.
And so, with your permission and with Sergeant Randall's permission and this forward training that we've really been having, we're really starting to bring the officers up to speed so that they're going to be able to appropriately handle these types of situations immediately, as opposed to let them continue. And as we know, the longer something like that plays out, the more casualties that there are.
And there's a lot of training that goes into these weapons.
Yes.
I mean, you just don't hand over that AR-15 to an officer and tell them to hit the road.
No, you don't.
Talk about that training a little bit. They've got to be certified in that weapon before they're issued, or before they were issued the weapon.
That's correct. I was fortunate enough to go through an instructor program through Center Mass, which is a very, very proactive training company. They're one of the few companies that LA and LA County will bring in out of house. They usually do their own. And so there were a few of us that were allowed to attend that school. And based on what we learned there, we were able to put together a very forward-thinking and high-speed training program with the city of Warren. And we would pretty much do, over the course of 3 days, and this is very labor intensive. We put together an excellent program, and I think that the officers have responded well to it. So, and also, thank you for actually allowing the department to get these weapons. I think.
Well, I was quite surprised when I
Yeah.
came here as the police commissioner that the equipment wasn't there. So
Right, and when the civilians sort of see these rifles, they're almost alarming initially.
Sure.
It's very almost militaristic.
Intimidating.
Right.
Yeah, it's very intimidating. But the fact of the matter is that this is the most precise weapon that the officers have at a moment's notice.
actually, it's better than the shotgun.
Oh, it
right?
far exceeds a shotgun. The two primary problems that you have with a shotgun, for instance, is your rounds. The double-aught buckshot is 9 .32 caliber pellets that travel downrange, and as they travel downrange, per yard traveled, the buckshot spreads 1 inch. So if you take a buckshot and you fire that round at your target being 50 yards downrange, you have a 50-inch spread of 9 .32 caliber pellets, and it continues to spread downrange. So accountability with the buckshot is very difficult to do so. And as far as the slug goes, because of its mass and momentum, you have a greater tendency for overpenetration, for instance, through a wall. There really is no round accountability if a round penetrates a wall, because you don't know what's on the other side of the wall. Whereas, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish up. We have just 2 minutes left. And I want to talk a little
30
bit about.
seconds. With this particular round, it's traveling at roughly 3,240 feet per second when it leaves the barrel. It's much smaller, and it will break up upon contact with an intermediate barrier or whatever it is that you're trying to stop from harming others. So it has a less of a propensity for overpenetration than our pistols or even our shotguns. So it's more accurate, easier to train with, and safer for the citizens.
Appreciate that. Simunitions.
Yes.
People are going to say, what is that? Well, why don't you explain, Sergeant Randall, what it is and why we have simunition training?
Yes, simulation training is actually reality, real life based training. What we do is we've incorporated into our firearms training, and what it is we use our actual department weapons that have been converted to shoot this simunitions round. And what it is, it's an actual encased projectile that's a paint and soap water-based projectile. So it's actually simulating real life shoot or no shoot situations. Not every scenario we run them through is a shoot situation. So it's great for decision making on the spot.
Right.
And we critique it afterwards, the officer's actions or inactions. And these simunitions, they do go at a very rapid pace, so it is like a regular round being fired off. And they do sting. Officers do feel the sting, but then it washes off with water, and it's one of the best trainings we have for getting the officers prepared for the road, so they know what they're going to act like, what their reaction's going to be. Because you can guess all day what you may or may not do in a certain circumstance, but we face them with these circumstances that could possibly happen.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but gentlemen, we're just about out of time here, but I want to thank you both for being on Police Journal. I think the information that we put out there today to the general public has a better understanding today as far as what type of training police officers go through. So thank you for the Police Journal. Thank you for doing Police Journal.